Clans. I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table, and this is little Misty over here. She's joining us, of course, for today's sessions. It is Sunday. I believe it is the 18th or 17th of of March. Watch the March of the Ides of March or whatever. No, the Ides of March. It is a dreary, gloomy day out there. It is in the 30s. It's You gotta love the springtime, man. This spring's coming up officially here in another week, or pretty damn close to it. It was almost 60 degrees a couple days ago. Yesterday was much better. We did a little bit of stuff outside. I still have to be careful of my foot. Officially, I go back on the clock tomorrow. Still waiting to get our truck. The truck is supposedly done, or was supposed to be done Friday, but now there comes the tricky part of finding the financing to pay for the repair. So that's what my boss will be doing tomorrow instead of doing it Friday, because he got a pass, because since I can't do nothing until tomorrow anyway, he just figured he'd wait. So I'm going to the office at 7 in the morning, and getting paid. They ain't got nothing to do. I don't care. I will find stuff to do, but I cannot go 2 weeks in a row without a damn check. The partial check from the previous week was bad, and there will be no Friday check, none at all this week for Friday. So we're lucky that I try to prepare for insanity like this as much as I can. So we have well-stocked larders, except for consumables that you go through pretty quick. Some things you got to replace on a weekly basis or damn close to it. Aside from that, and the cat food, of course, that's a priority. The only downside is there's no paying any bills. There's no money to pay bills with, and the bills don't stop coming just because the check did, or my hours did. So I'm looking very close at that. So I suspect, well, when I do get the truck back, I was in the office this morning for about an hour and a half. The wife goes up every couple of weeks and cleans the office for some spending money. And I was looking at the schedules for the last couple of weeks, and I have probably 40 customers now that are behind, and I already have a short list. There's 5-6 people that have already called wanting service ASAP. And of course, Murphy's Law, whenever the equipment's down or something of that nature, it's usually when somebody crawls out of the woodwork with a problem. So I got 3 of those, and then a couple others that were supposed to have been done last week, and I couldn't get to them, and they're wanting to know when we can get to them because they want to get it done. So ASAP. Once we get the truck. And then the stack, I just looked at all the work orders for all the jobs I would be doing this week. I never ever bothered calling anybody for this schedule for the week I just finished, right? And so I have the 2 weeks solid of stuff that's not been done yet. And here we are coming up on the new week, which would have probably 15 or so customers spread through the week that have to be addressed, that are not, because I've already got 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks worth of work ahead from behind me that to try to get done. And some of these are priorities; they have to be done. I mean, we do a VA hospital. We have a contract. We do them 3 times a month. Here we are, the mid part of the month, and we haven't done any. Right, so we're going to have to squeeze 3 services into a period. It should be one every 10 days. Well, we missed the first one, and the second one should have happened just Thursday or Friday night. So that's number 2. We're going to have a problem. I got to talk to them about that tomorrow, because if they don't get that damn truck by Tuesday, they need to be calling a competitor and paying them to go out and service that damn hospital, because we have a contract. It's not the first time we've had to do that, so I know that's how that goes. But meanwhile, I've got customers that, they want answers, and I can't give them an answer. All I can just tell them is, as soon as the truck gets back, you're on my priority list. And then, of course, a lot of these are case sensitive. What I mean by that is they want specific times during specific periods of the day, so for certain days of the week, certain times. And that just makes things more of a pain in the ass, because now you're trying to figure out how to fit these guys in when there's already a premium. The 9 a.m. slot during the week is a very popular. It's 2 hours before most restaurants open for lunch, and the staff's usually showing up about 3. or about 9 a.m. So the morning's prep staff are usually getting there about 9 a.m. And so, you know, getting that slot, you've only got 5 that you can do during the week. And that's assuming I don't pull an overnight, you know, on a Sunday night, which would cut off the Monday, because I'm not spending 16 hours out there. I've done it before, and it's not pretty. By the time 8 or 9 o'clock rolls around in the morning, I'm literally dead on my feet, and I have no humor whatsoever. And it's got me in trouble, and it's got the company in trouble a couple times. So I've learned the hard way, don't play that. Don't put yourself in that spot. So here we are. I did some videos on Tuesday, I think. I was going to do some yesterday, to be honest, or I was going to do some every day for the last couple of days, to be honest, but it's just been hard to be motivated. I spent most of the time on my chair watching, I guess, binge watching my way through One Piece. I'm into episode 720 or something like that. 720 episodes so far, right? And they just finished up the arc with Domingo or whatever, Doflingo or whatever the hell his name was, fallen celestial turned bad guy, uber bad guy. They're not quite escaped from the island yet, right? So they saved the country, Rosa, from this tyrant, and it damn near gets destroyed because of this guy. And these guys fight him tooth and nail. They make the argument, the superhero comment, well, if they hadn't been there, maybe they wouldn't have, you know, the guy wouldn't have tried to destroy the damn, you know, kingdom. And then the Navy, the Marines get involved, and of course it's a catch. It's hard to say which side of the good guy, bad guy you divide they stand on, because a lot of times the Marines cross that boundary an awful lot. I'm just saying. So, right? I've been, you know, kind of bogarting a lot of that down, and just keeping off my feet, because the swelling's the worst part. You know, it's gone down. I haven't had any swelling for a few days. It felt a little swollen last night, but the antibiotics finally, I ran through them, so there are no more antibiotics to take. So what's in my system's it. So it better work. We did have some kind of blister or something bust loose on it. Yep. All right. So, like, you guys want to hear that gross stuff, but it seems to be, it drained for a couple days and seems to be much better now than it was. Right? So anyway, we're looking at the field menu for the Warden Clans, and like a lot of these books, there is a whole lot of information in them. Ideally, they tried to catch base on all the major Warden clans and pertinent information and things that they thought the player base would want to know. The downside, of course, is that these books are not exclusive. What I mean by that is, anybody who's played these clans know that the clan lore and rich material for each individual clan is very deep. They could have every clan is deserving of its own source book, in my opinion. We'll never see that. We'll never see it. There's just too many of them. Even with the recent whittling down of a handful of them and the increasing of one, stone lions, my backside. So this was setting roughly in the 3050 era, roughly 3051. Battle at Tokyo is concluded. The clan Smoke Jaguars are on their time is numbered. We see a lot of internal strife in conflict between the internal the invader, or the clans that came to the inner sphere and the ones that remained behind. This divide begins to grow more, even more so when Clan Viper gets its ass handed to it and basically sent packing. So, you know, there's a lot of good information in here for that era, and a lot of good information for base information on your clan, your favorite clans if you're in there. So we got Defenders of the True Faith, Path Toward Enlightenment, Kerensky's Legacy, basically the Warden philosophy that Kerensky meant for the Star League and Exile to stay on the periphery of the inner sphere and only step in if the need to defend it from an outside foe was paramount. So it was twisted and utilized by the Crusader elements to justify the invasion of the Inner Sphere in the first damn place, but it didn't change the fact that there's a strong core group of people who believe that aggressive acts against the great houses in the Inner Sphere was counterintuitive to what Kerensky's original plan was. So it's a matter of how you want to look at it. So of the defenders or the Warden clans, Clan Cloud Cobra, Clan Coyote, Clan Diamond Shark, Clan Ghost Bear, Clan Glass Scorpion, Clan Snow Raven, Clan Steel Viper, and Clan Wolf in Exile. So we talk about the martial assets, the warriors, fleet, ships, navy, that kind of stuff, what's available. Each house, some are better than others, some have more. I find it ironic that of the Warden clans, 3 of the surviving home clans, 3 of them were Warden clans at one point, or 2 of them were Warden clans at one point. 3, I guess. Although I guess the Steel Vipers were wiped out at some point. This is the Adders being a Crusader group, but the Cobras and the Coyotes were not, and they remained behind. Neither one of them participated in the battle for the Inner Sphere or the invasion of the Inner Sphere, and as my knowledge, I don't think they even sent forces forward, including the battle at Tukiat. So you can't lay the failure at Tukiat at these clans' feet, because these clans wouldn't agree with it. Well, if we were there, kind of stuff. So we've got, the Warden clans, mech assets, aerospace, armor, infantry, organization, typical clan. I mean, there's just different shades of the same entity. So we go to the martial aesthetics, rank and insignias, martial practices, i.e. the bidding, battles, cut down strategies, formal rituals, trials, blood rites, possession, tactics, self-bringing, breeding and training, strengthening of the clan, training facilities, civcos, and testing. And we get into the individual clans. So of all the clan information, all the clan books that were produced and have been produced to this date, with the exception of a few core books such as the Jade Falcon source book and the Wolves source book, who are obviously geared specifically towards the clans. The specific clan, because they were prominent players in the game, so they got their own. But by definition, everyone else gets these, and these are still better than nothing. They give us a window into the individual clans to at least give you a little bit of flavor and how to put them up. It's like, I was thinking earlier about Clan Coyote. I've never been a fan or a detractor of Clan Coyote. I've never played them, to be honest. I never had anybody play them. They are, to me, they come across as like a founding group on the decline. So what I mean by that is that their importance to the clans as a whole, and in the hierarchy of things, the Coyotes were much more important earlier on. And something over the last couple hundred years, they've slowly, ever but surely, but slowly, have decreased in their influence and abilities to the point where they're all but a second line clan. And it doesn't help that about this era we have the plot with a lot of the scientist case within various clans, including a large portion of the Coyote clan scientist case, to completely alter and change the clans as the clans are, in such a manner that was completely, against the clan everything, so they had to be put down. And so the Clan Coyote lost majority of its scientist case in one cruel sweep, if you will, and that's devastating. For any entity that depends not only on its technical expertise and knowledge to continue forward with whatever agenda it has, to lose a significant portion of the people assets, that entails is devastating. It can take generations to recover from it, because you instantly lose all that information and all that knowledge that those individual specialists have learned. I mean, it's so an already diminished clan becomes even further diminished when we look at that perspective. So, what we do know of these clans, like majority of what you get is from the short stories and other lore, and the hits and bits and pieces and other source books. So when we turn to specifics on a given clan, it's these handful of these source books that we really depend on. And if you can get your hands, if you're a fan of the clans, and you really want to know about clan heritage and history and where we were before, then this is one of those books, if you can get your hands on it, it's well worth having. If you can get a PDF of it, the original. I've seen a few of these floating around on Amazon and eBay over the decades. I obviously didn't buy any of them, and I can't remember what the prices were quoted, because sometimes the prices on these things can be insane. If you think about it, if somebody was, and I'm sure some of these people are pretty savvy about this, if you had the resources 20 years ago, and you had the resources to buy 5 of every book that came out, every game source book you could get, and you bought 5 of them, and you left 4 of them in the original packaging, waiting for 10, 20 years down the road, then you put these things out individually, one at a time, and let the market bear what it does. So these people put these absurd prices on them, $300 to $1,000. I've seen game books that I paid $30, $20 for, $30 for, 40 years ago, that are damn near brand new looking, and they want $999 for it. And obviously there's somebody out there paying for this, or they wouldn't get that kind of money. And I keep that old horse trader sense mind thing in my head, that some, because they asking for this doesn't mean they won't settle for a hell of a lot less. So if you go in there and say, I'll give you $250 for it, and they actually originally only wanted $100 for it, they still come out massively ahead. And if you're crazy enough, desperate enough, or got deep enough pockets to give them $1,000, then how can you fault them for doing the they're not doing anything shisty. It just is what it is. It just boggles my brain sometimes how much some of this stuff is worth now. All right. So get into the clan, their military formations, their internal structure, their key units, which is most of what these field manuals it is at the end of the day. It's to highlight the units themselves. So you're going to have 80% of these source books based on unit bios, and that's basically all there are, right? So we get into the clan Coyote, right, and their history, making of an empire, right? Birth of the Titans, the Renaissance spreads, righteous vengeance, the blood scandal, stalling fate, invasion and its toll, cost of treason, strength of the pack, military practices. Overall, from everything I've seen of other people who have fielded either as an opposing force or as their home force, a clan Coyote, generally they're an all-around general, clan. They don't have any real super specialized tactics. They're not extremely vicious or violent. They're not extremely sneaky and shisty. All about trying to figure out anything other than direct conflict. I mean, that's pretty much anti-clan-like. But there are a few clans, like the Snow Ravens and the Diamond Sharks, who dance around the tune. It's more about the other stuff to them and less about the actual military, martial, whatever. So, that said, I don't know that they're any better or worse than most of the clans. They don't really have enough to make them stand out. There's a couple in here that really stand out because of just how diverse or how strange they are internally, and that oddity makes them even 10 times more so because they are members of the clans, and by definition you would think the other clans would want to kill them for being what they are, and in some ways they do. There's a lot of animosity going on between these clans. in the best of circumstances, let alone under stress. So we got clan customs, the communion with the coyote, the hunt, the vision quest. We got uniforms and some the current Sescon and Con and Lore Master. Got into our like I said, their unit bios. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 galaxies of line and second line troops. That very big. Clan Diamond Shark. Clan Diamond Shark has been an enigma of a clan in a lot of ways. Most likely, the majority of the time, the only way you get any kind of martial response out of the Diamond Sharks if it's got something to do with backing up one of their merchant contracts of some sort. You know, just they are so borderline clan. It's the very fact that the merchant mindset that drives clan Diamond Shark or Sea Fox or whatever the hell you want to call them, whichever entity they are at that moment in your era. The other clans are dependent on them for, if nothing else, circulating trade, keeping trade moving in the Kerensky cluster and around it. Because most of the other hand, a lot of the other clans are not inclined to do any kind of trade whatsoever, and some are actually oppose it. I mean, their warrior class look down on it so much that it just irks them to no end that they have to resort to the bean counting to achieve something. It's just terrible. And so the fact that this clan it primarily is the logistics source for a lot of the other clans tends to go unrecognized. I have wondered, the Smoke Jaguars, as vicious as they were, if in the long term it wouldn't have been much more detrimental to the clans as a whole if they'd eradicated the Diamond Sharks. Would not have had the impact that they were shooting for, I grant you, because among the clans, most of them poo-poo the Diamond Sharks. They wouldn't so the Inner Sphere took out the weakest of us kind of thing. It wouldn't go well. But even the Inner Sphere, I mean, everybody benefits from these guys, and they're consummate wheelers and dealers, which is really odd compared to the fact that they are clan, and clans are supposed to, clanners in general hate, shisty stuff. It's just saying, right? It's just amazing. It's definitely an interesting clan. Not surprising that there's not a huge lot of secondary source material, short stories and novels and things like that revolving around the great clan merchants. They're great merchant clans. It's what it is. So, I also found that it was interesting that when the Inner Sphere clans decided to make the Inner Sphere their home, that a lot of them tended to migrate and find Inner Sphere allies that both fit their need and fit their totem in a way. I mean, just look at the Snow Ravens, for example. I mean, the Snow Ravens, clearly aerospace dominated, space dominated tomen, more fighter craft than mechs, find common cause with the Outworlds Alliance. Ironically, the poorest of the periphery or Inner Sphere or periphery nations, any of them, it's the bottom of the barrel when it comes to finances for as large as it is. But their own aerospace traditions, their own martial traditions based off of the aerospace pilot being the elite ace and everybody else being second fiddle, just was right up the Snow Ravens' alley. It's just convenient, right? And that they were able to work out deals. As a whole, the Outwards Alliance are a bunch of pacifists, which is bullshit. They're not pacifists. They're just really poor and really militarily weak where on the offensive capabilities. Obviously, they have enough defense to hold their own, but they're not inclined to invade their neighbors, and they have such a huge, vast store of lost planets that wouldn't need to. They could spend the next 100 years reclaiming worlds they used to control before the Star League fell apart. I mean, for the first Star League disintegrated. I'm just saying. So, yeah, right, it is what it is. You get the clan Diamond Sharks and the Snow Ravens, and there's some interesting conundrums in there, right? So we get a little bit of talking about naval assets, military practices and customs, strengths and organizations, clan standards. Then we get into uniforms, leaders and rice, star, blah blah, and then the various clan units. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 galaxies, both mainline and secondary forces. Clan Ghost Bear, and everybody's familiar with Ghost Bear. Pretty much anybody. If you're not, if you play BattleTech for any length of time, you know about Clan Ghost Bear. Ghost Bear, of all the clans, are the most civic-minded in a way. They're the most inclined to want to settle down and become part of something bigger. So they divorce themselves from Kerensky's children's dream in a way. I mean, they're still clan. The Clan Ghost Bear is still a clan. It still functions as a clan, holds itself the clan ideals, and operates in the very same similar patterns of all the other clans. Nothing in that aspect's changed. Their strong depth of family has always been with them since the beginning, and that's in part helps them with the trying to become part of a bigger whole. There's still a lot of problems with that, of course. They're set in their ways. They're clanners that for a reason, and clans have their problems, especially when it comes to dealing with non-canister born people. And then, of course, the Ragaha, of all the regions of the Inner Sphere, the one that's the most with the longest history of defiance against the controlling power, it's these folks. They have spent the bulk of the history of humanity since their world was settled, being controlled by somebody else. They very briefly was part of their own nation, and then then they weren't, and then they were dominated by the Draconis Combine for hundreds of years, and then they gained their independence, and then the clans took it away from 99% of it. They were reduced to 6 planets or something like that, and so at the end of the day, the clan that took most of their territory was a Ghost Bear. So Ghost Bear swallows up most of their territory, and then just says to what's left of them, says, "Look, why are we on the wrong side of the same fence?" And so of all the clans, Ghost Bear shows the one with the most potential for the longest term survival, in my opinion. It also gives the greatest example of what a Warden clan philosophy ought to be, and how the other, quote, Warden clans terribly failed in their mission to save the Inner Sphere and protect the Inner Sphere. They truly did. They failed it. They failed it by participating in the invasion in the first damn place. They should have opposed the invasion on their own soil before they came here. But it's just kind of the way that shit plays out. So, after the Wolves and the Jade Falcons, I think the Smoke Jaguars have probably got the most story time, novels-wise and short stories-wise, as clans go. So that gives a lot more information on them and how they operate and how they see themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 primary, frontline, and provincial galaxies compared to the 8 that the Coyotes and the Adders can field. Yeah. So, I mean, then we get into Clan Glass Scorpion. These guys are a bit of a hot mess. I've been dancing around these guys for decades and never quite 100% figured out their gig. I mean, I do and I don't, right? So, aren't these the ones, aren't these the ones that eventually they bail or they get kicked out of the home worlds anyway? and then they settled that periphery nation state. I'm thinking off the top of the head, Nova Castile or whatever the hell it was, and where's that? The Mandrills. Yeah. So another one of these that had opportunities. The problem with these guys, in my understanding, is a lot of their internal problems. You know, a lot of internal conflict amongst their little factions or whatever. Right. The Scorpion's vision, the golden time. Excuse me. Way back, we used to, when somebody would ask them, well, how would you represent a clan Goliath Scorpion? And I said, mystics and fanatics. A fanatical mystic. There's some truth to that. But at the end of the day, this is one of those clans where you wondered how they survived. It's like the Fire Mandrills. The Fire Mandrills are so fractional on their internal. It's a miracle they survived to see the invasion of the Inner Sphere in the first damn place. I'm surprised their own clans didn't take them out, just from the way their internal operations kept screwing with everything. All right, so we claim, Goliath Scorpion, naval assets, military doctrine. Says Goliath Scorpion's naval fleet is unusually large given the historical emphasis the clan is based on ground combat. Oh, excuse me. Says, ostensibly under command of Star Admiral Jose Crusader, the 17 Scorpion warships are assigned to virtually permanent duty with a particular galaxy and operate small support fleets on a day-to-day basis. So each galaxy's got its own warship for a backup. Yeah, that makes for a potent combo. Alright, so we get notable warriors. Then we get into our units 1, 2. We got some color. I always like the color. You can see the improvements to the artwork and stuff considerably over that stuff we used to have back in the, back in the late 80s or early 90s. Right. Yeah, I always thought there was so much potential for some of these, and some of these others I was like, what the hell? I'm like, Snow Ravens. I've always been fascinated by the Snow Ravens and the Nova Cats. Of all the clans, Snow Ravens and Nova Cats perhaps are the two that I like the most. I like the Snow Ravens because, I don't know, there's something different about them in a lot of ways. And to find that they paired up with the Outwards Alliance is not surprising. What I was hoping for is to see this pairing of these two entities, and that the Outworlds Alliance gaining a much needed boost militarily, but also, technologically speaking, because there's so much untapped resource potential for the Alliance, but because of disinterest and the lack of funding to exploit any of it, it hasn't been exploited, in as much as it could have been. And then there's also that two are stronger than one philosophy thing, right? So whether it'll pan out that way, I don't know, because we don't have much in the way of story lore novels or things like that cover the Snow Ravens, which I think is, sad, but understandable. I mean, I get it. There's only so many to go around. Of all the secondary, and I use the term loosely secondary, but let's just see, lesser played clans, Snow Raven's probably one with the richest potential in my opinion, right? It is what it is. Their ground forces are light, on the light side. They don't have as many of them, obviously, and that's because a lot of their towman is dominated heavily by aerospace and naval space assets. So, of all the clans, navally speaking, there's no rival to the Snow Ravens. So clan Steel Vipers, there have been kind of an up and down. They've had a lot of bad luck, and as far as I know, I think, didn't they get disillusioned, or no? I don't think they got destroyed or what. I forget now. I know it. I just can't remember. Still. I had a buddy that really loved the Steel Vipers. He really took to them a lot. Of course, we got Clan Wolf and Exile. Clan Wolf is a hot mess, and it has been all along. And it's also it's a given. I think most people that play the game long term have concluded that it is a bit of a Mary Sue clan, by meaning, but that the clan gets you know to yeah, I guess it's better off up there, right? The Mary Sue clan, where they get all the wins. Even when they lose, they still come out on top. They're the poster child, or the firstborn of the creators for the company back in the day. So they were the it crowd, and they still are in many ways. I mean, they still are in many ways. So the thing about the Wolf Clan is they're a paradox in many ways too, because for a Warden clan they're extremely violent, extremely aggressive, I should say. So they got no qualms about defending their beliefs with force, right, and utilizing it. The thing that sets them apart by most of their clan standards is they're quick learners. The leadership is smart and savvy, and in part because they realize that they don't know everything. They're not all that in a bag of chips. There's always something new, possibly, to learn and to utilize. And having information on your foe is worth a lot. That was another thing the clan, the Wolves got right and understood, especially by the time of the Inner Sphere invasion, of just how important having these shadowy assets are, even though the clan hierarchy hates them with a passion, And that I find that irony that most the clans have access to the most cutting edge technology from the Star League era, and so their intelligence network should be on par with anything, with ROM out of Comstar at its height. They should just be chock-a-block full of skill sets and technology and crap that just runs circles around the Inner Sphere's digital defenses. Instead, we don't get that. We get a society of the leadership that actually abhors this very kind of behavior and plays it down. And so you get this jumped up police force doubling down as their Secret Service or their CIA, FBI. It's irony because they would be. It's a good thing for the Inner Sphere that it played out this way, because if they were really on par with, because if you look at the Dragoon's own version of an intel service, if all the clans were based on something like that, well, geez, how the battles would have been much more in their favor. In this case, how often they would not have been caught flat-footed. The other side was the arrogance. The clan wolf is arrogant, but they're savvy enough to listen to other people and try to decide whether or not there's something of value there being said, as opposed to outright dismissing it all the way. The downside with them is, of course, is that they don't ever truly lose. So it gets boring after a while. And then even when you get to schism, this split, even weakened, both sides of the clan wolf are powerhouses. Nobody can take them down, which is back to that Mary Sue thing. So you get all the information, all the stuff you thought you would want to know about it, the surviving galaxy, and so on and so forth. And then we get into our glossary, of course, rules. The rules annex, we're adding specialties and things like that. Rules. Alright, so we got Warden Battle Armor, the Sylph Battle Armor. Already introduced in a couple other source books by now, too. Battletech game rules. Mech Warrior game rules. New equipment. Advanced Tactical Missile Systems, or the ATMs. The Savage Coyote, an 85-ton assault mech. What is that thing? It's OmniMech, of course. New warships, the Conqueror class battle cruiser carrier. Leviathan heavy class heavy transport. Right. We're in cluster index and some odds and ends. Like I said, the clans as a general are a worthy foe, and they were always meant to be the uber bad guy. When Battletech first was introduced, the uber bad guy would be the traditional Western philosophy of the white hat, black hat. So the white hats being House Steiner sometimes, the House Davion all the time, and the free worlds like when on occasion when you caught them off guard, versus the black hats where with the Draconis Combine, obviously the aggressive, bloodthirsty types that they are, make them suitable to be black hats. And then the House Leal, the Camellan Confederation, with its treachery and its duplicitous and its whatever. So once again, though, that Western versus Eastern thing. So we had natural enemies, and we made them, and they FASA and then later FanPro and then Catalyst have done great works to divorce themselves from that philosophy. They made at very earliest beginnings of Battletech, the humanity was pretty well spread out throughout the inner sphere and beyond. So no one house had a dominant race. They weren't shooting for that. They weren't shooting for an entire Japanese culture in the Draconis Combine being the big powerhouse in its own way that it is. They wanted it to have that Bushido / samurai Edo period kind of vibe to it. But the earliest novels, I mean, one of the Wolves on the Border, one of my favorite novels from that era. One of the primary characters / antagonists in there, depending on whose side of the table you're sitting on, of course. Minero, or however his name is pronounced, was was an African American. That's what I'm talking about, an African American samurai, Japanese samurai, because 1,000-odd years in the future, we should have a different set of priorities with ourselves. And this racial bullshit that we cling to so hard in our real world is sad, and we should evolve out of that eventually. It's still always be an us versus them thing, because that's human nature. I don't think we're ever going to evolve out of that. But that's one of the few things that Ronald Reagan did have right. If an alien force came in from outside and they weren't technologically superior to us and wiped us out in a heartbeat, it would be on like Donkey Kong, and suddenly all of our petty differences and our religion and race and color would all go away, because they wouldn't go away. They would be supplemented by the fact we would hate whatever religion, race, and social conventions these aliens had out of habit. You invaded our world, there go, you're the enemy. So, that said, they did a good job of trying to get away from that stuff, although it's tried to rear its head up a couple times in recent years. It's just like when I hear people get all upset about real world social morals and issues when they try to link it to a fantasy setting of a completely fictional storyline in an alternate reality universe that never occurs. We get socially bent out of shape because of the companies doing something to cheese us off about something inside the system, or inside of our favorite game, or the favorite game is altered somehow. And so it becomes an issue of economics and control versus the fan base. And nothing to do with the product and the setting and the game that everybody's enjoying. We just attach labels and tags to shit, and it ends up biting us in the ass in the long run. So, it's like the clans. The clans came in with a lot of expectations and have not handled it well. Even after 100 years, they're getting their asses handed to them on a regular basis by the inner sphere, they still got it in their head that they're superior and that somehow they're going to overcome everybody. And because of actions of Clan Wolf, that just perpetrates that mindset and that philosophy. We're now the Ill Clan. We now conquered Earth and Terra, and everybody should kiss our ass. Unfortunately, nobody's bending down to kiss their ass. Words, just saying that our favorite frickin' whatever the hell you want to call him, Elkan, is just beside himself the fact that they're not all lining up to kiss his ass. Well, I won. Clan Wolf took Terra. That's what that's what Nicholas Kerensky promised. Anyhow, until next time, I'm Rick. You're not. Little Missy sitting over there behaving herself, curled up and taking a nap, peeking at me every now and then. Go figure, right? Let's see. We get the right button here, huh? We get the right button. Maybe it won't work. Oh, yeah. See, that's how it goes. See, it's delaying.